Welcome to today's Reddit story. Let's dive right in. Mother-in-law moved in, and now I can't wait to move out, but it will leave her and my fiancé in a serious financial bind. This is a throwaway account because my fiancé follows my main. Me, a 29-year-old female, and my ex-fiancé, a 27-year-old male, have been living together for about 1.5 years. My fiancé got his undergraduate degree, worked for a couple of years, and then decided to get an MBA, which is how he ended up in our city. We moved in together after he finished his MBA program. He is from the Midwest, and his mom has always wanted him to move back. When he told her he was staying here, she was heartbroken. I went to college and got my degree in STEM field. After I graduated, I got a job with my current company and moved to the city where we currently live. It is a big international company with multiple locations in the United States and internationally. I love my job, I like the company I work for, and the pay is pretty good. All in all, a pretty good deal. During COVID, my office shut down and we all went work from home. After COVID, they decided not to reopen this office, so I have been 100% work from home since early 2020. I currently make considerably more than him, mainly because I have been working for 7 years and I am in tech. I had been living by myself in a 1-bedroom apartment and just had my office set up in the living room since it was just me. When we moved in together, we decided to get a 2-bedroom apartment so I could use the extra room as an office. Because of this, I was paying 2/3 of the rent and he paid 1/3. We split everything else 50-50. So, the problem started this past May. My fiancé's mom told him she wanted to move to our city to be closer to him. She asked if she could stay with us while she looked for a job and got settled. She is a teacher, so she figured she would be able to get a teaching job pretty quickly. Because of that, I did not really mind her staying with us, as I figured it would just be for a couple of months over the summer. Since I thought it would only be for a couple of months, I moved my office into a corner of our bedroom, and my fiancé bought a bed to put in the second bedroom. The problem is, she never applied for any teaching positions, and has been living with us for 6 months now. She and I have really been struggling with each other since she moved in. I cannot make her understand that I work full-time. She constantly interrupts while I am working, which is bad enough, but she even interrupts when I am on Teams calls. She always asks me to take her places because she does not like to drive in our city. She has pretty outdated views of gender roles, and is constantly giving me a hard time for not doing more around the house, and making my fiancé help with chores, do his own laundry, and so on. The constant criticism and insults are just really wearing me down. And I hate having my office shoved in a corner of the bedroom. Back in September, I told my fiancé that since it looks like his mom is going to stay a while, we should split the rent 3 ways. He told me she cannot afford that since she has to conserve money until she gets a job. I told him I was not happy paying extra for a bedroom I cannot use. So finally he said we could do a 50-50 split. I could afford to pay the extra, but I hate the idea of funding her lifestyle. Every time I complain about her or the situation, he says he agrees, but does not know what to do because he cannot kick out his mom. And he will not talk to her about the way she treats me or how she behaves. When I ask what the long-term plan is, he just says he does not know. I have thought about giving him an ultimatum to tell her she has to leave, but I think he would just end up resenting me for essentially putting his mom on the street. So, one of my girlfriends is losing her roommate at the end of February. Our lease renews June 1st. I am very strongly considering moving out of our current apartment and moving in with her. I can afford to pay my part of the rent on our current apartment and also half the rent at my friend's apartment. It is not ideal, but I am not a big spender, so it is doable. The issue is, If he and his mom are not able to pay for 1/3 of the rent each, there is no way they could cover the whole thing on their own. But I cannot live like this anymore, so I am pretty sure this is what I will do, but I wanted to see what others thought. Update. I started off trying to reply to everyone's comments and keep up, but honestly, I just got completely overwhelmed. First off, I want to thank everyone for their feedback, even the ones that were kind of harsh. Actually, probably especially the ones that were kind of harsh. I really needed some tough love to make me realize that I was letting my soon-to-be ex and his mom take advantage of me. The more comments I read, the more pissed off I got. Honestly, I think I am more pissed at myself for allowing this to happen and not advocating for myself more. This past weekend, I got my soon-to-be ex alone so we could talk. It was actually harder than it should have been because his mom always tries to tag along when we do anything. Going through all the comments everyone left and the private messages really helped me decide how to approach this. And also, it brought up a lot of good questions I should have thought of myself. Back to the discussion with the ex. I wanted to give him one more chance to pick us over his mom, not because I thought he would, but I just wanted to be able to tell myself I gave him the opportunity. I explained again about how unhappy I am with the situation, how it is affecting my work because of her constant interruptions, and just being unhappy and uncomfortable that I am forced to work out of a corner in our bedroom. And I reminded him that until a few months ago, I was paying the majority of the rent, and being that I make so much more than him, it is really my salary that keeps us all afloat. And I also brought up, again, the way she treats me and talks to me. And he replied the same way he has been. He agrees it is not right how she acts, and that it is really uncomfortable for us all. What the FF? I do not care if she is uncomfortable. Previously, I would have dropped it there. But this time I told him how angry and disappointed I was that he let me pay for 2/3 of the rent when she first moved, and how unfair it was that I am still paying for half when there are 3 people living there, and she is the only one with her own bedroom. It was the same story. She has to conserve money, since she does not have any income currently. Which brought up the question of where all her stuff went when she moved, and what money she uses for incidentals. So evidently, when she got divorced, she asked for the divorce after my ex went off to college, and it does not sound like her husband wanted it. His dad bought her out of the equity in their house. The ex did not have any idea how much that was, or how much is left. But until she moved here, she was working full-time as a teacher and living in a small apartment, so she should not have had to tap into the divorce settlement money very much. Other than that, the ex did not have much insight into her finances other than what she told him. I told him straight up that I am moving out before the end of the month, and from now on, I am only paying 25%. As some of the commentators pointed out, she has a whole bedroom while I have to share with a man-child, so she should have to pay twice as much. After I move out, I am not paying for anything else. No utilities, no food, nothing other than rent. I have a pretty good idea of what his finances are like, and if he has to pay 75% of the rent all by himself, it is going to take a huge chunk of his net income. And after he pays utilities and buys groceries, there won't be anything left for incidentals. Rent was due on the 1st, but it is not late until after the 5th, so he has 2 days to come up with the money. If he does not come up with it, and I end up covering, then I will reduce the amount I pay in future months. The only reason I am going to keep paying any of the rent is that even after I move out, I am still on the hook. I talked to the leasing office, and they explained that since the ex and I signed a single rental agreement together, meaning one contract we both signed, we are both responsible for the rent. They do not care who actually pays as long as it gets paid. The only alternative would be if he agrees to sign a new lease by himself or together with his mom. But in all likelihood, he would not be able to pass the credit check on his own, so I am kind of stuck. I do not think he will do anything stupid though, because he is going to need to find someplace to live after this, and a collection on his credit report would not be good. I also told him that I am going to find someplace to work during the day until I move, so she cannot bother me. My friend I am moving in with said I could work there during the day since she and her current roommate have in-person 9-to-5s. I took her up on that for now. After living with his mom, I am not about to overstay my welcome, so I am going to find some other options that I can rotate through. Someone suggested checking out the public library, or if it comes to it, I will get a membership at one of those WeWork kind of places. Just in case, I brought my important papers, files, and valuables, and my friend is storing them for me until I move in. He really did not take it well. The surprising thing to me is that he was surprised by everything. He seemed really shocked that I was not prioritizing his mom. I really got the feeling that he sincerely believed I wanted to take care of her as much as him, and he kept saying stuff like, "What about my mom? What am I going to tell her? That's how she is, but we still need to help her," and so on. He asked about our relationship and the engagement. I told him after I move out, I need some space from him. In a few months, when we have both had some time and space to process what happened, if we both agree, we can talk about the relationship. But he would have to prove that he is going to have my back going forward and will set boundaries with his mom. I told him that just to avoid more drama, but I do not see a future in which we are together. I told him he needs to tell his mom because she is not my responsibility or problem, and she will know something is up when I start moving my stuff out. He has not told her what is going on yet, but this weekend I am going to start moving things, so he does not have much time. My friend's current roommate starts a new job in another state on the 3rd, so in reality, I can probably move in 2 to 3 weeks, just depending on when she actually leaves. I do not expect him to do anything bad, other than sulk and complain, but if he does something stupid or does not pay his part of the rent, the ace up my sleeve is I will tell the leasing office his mom moved in, which is prohibited in the lease. Honestly, getting evicted would solve a lot of my problems right now, so it is a pretty valid threat, I think. Now that I have mentally and emotionally separated myself from him and his mom, I am looking forward to her reaction when he tells her what is going on. If it gets too ugly, I will find a cheap Airbnb or hotel or something. I have had some friends, including the one I am moving in with, offer to let me couch surf for a few weeks, but I just cannot do that to someone else. So that is it. I am leaving, and I really do not care how that affects them. Update. Hey everyone. I have been getting a lot of requests for an update, so I wanted to let everyone know how it went when the ex's mom found out about me not covering all the rent and moving out. Too long, didn't read. It was kind of a heck of a mess. But I am moved out, and I am off the lease. My future mother-in-law is on the lease now, and she and the ex's dad are covering half the rent, and my soon-to-be ex is covering the other half. Last week, I started working out of my friend's apartment, the one I am moving in with, so I did not see the ex's mom on Monday. Tuesday around lunch, she sent me a text asking where I was. I told her I was working, and I would be home late tonight. She replied that the ex told her I was not going to be contributing as much, so she had to loan him money for rent. That was not a surprise to me, so I just replied with a thumbs up emoji. I had plans with my friend and her roommate to go out for dinner and then get some drinks. So, by the time I got home, it was after midnight and the ex's mom was already asleep. The fun started Wednesday morning. I was getting ready to go to work at my friend's place when the ex's mom stopped me and said, "We need to discuss my financial situation." Then she went on a whole tirade about her having to cover my part of the rent, me making foolish choices by going out to dinner when I could not even pay rent, saying I was irresponsible with money and inconsiderate of the impact it had on others, blah, blah, blah. She went on to say that if she was going to have to pay my share of the rent, she expected me to do a better job of keeping on top of chores and keeping the apartment clean and organized. I told her I was moving out since, obviously, my soon-to-be ex had not told her yet. She seemed, I don't know, pleased with herself. All she had to say was, maybe that's for the best. When I got home that night, right off the bat, she wanted to talk. She said instead of me moving out, we could get a bigger apartment and she would be willing to help by paying the difference between a 2-bedroom and a 3-bedroom. Then we could go back to the arrangement the ex and I had before she moved in, me paying 2/3 of the balance and him paying 1/3. Honestly, when she was saying this, I think my brain vapor locked. She was making it sound like she was doing us a favor by offering to pay the increase in rent. Apparently, this man-child, who tells his mom literally every single thing about our lives and relationship, had not bothered to tell his mom how much I was actually contributing. It seems like once she discovered the ex was not paying for everything like she thought, she was not as excited about me moving out. I tried to be polite and told her I had already given notice to our apartment complex that I was moving out at the end of the month and had already committed to move in with my friend. She kept pushing the issue and said if she was willing to pay the difference, I should just stay, because that would really be best for everyone. By then, I was getting annoyed and told her that because of the way she has been acting and treating me, I had no interest in living with her anymore. That is when the best line of this whole dumpster fire came out of her mouth. She said she was worried I was taking advantage of her son, and if we had told her about our financial arrangement, she would have been more understanding of why I was not keeping up with the apartment. I told her maybe a good lesson from this is to try being nice to everyone in the future, and not just the people you think can help you. And I asked her why she did not help out more since she was not doing anything productive all day. She did not like either of those comments, and it got pretty hostile with both of us yelling at each other. And to be fair, we both said some pretty awful things to one another. Finally, I told her I was going to inform the rental office that she had been living there contrary to the lease agreement because getting evicted would be worth it to see her living on the street. I grabbed my laptop and went to my friend's place. I did not even bother packing an overnight bag. Next afternoon, Thursday, the ex texted me and said he had added his mom to the lease effective the 1st of the month, and that she and his dad, I have no idea how that poor man got roped into this, would pay half the rent and the ex would pay the other half. I confirmed with the property manager that I was off the lease and did not have any further obligation. I got it in an email, so I have a record. I put disconnect orders in for the utilities under my name and told him to call and set up accounts under his name. I am going to lose the damage deposit. It goes to whoever is living there when the lease ends, but it is a small price to pay to be free. On the way home, I stopped and got a bunch of boxes to pack my stuff up. She was pretty hostile when I got home, and when she saw how much I was taking, she got worse. I ended up taking Friday off to finish packing, and on Saturday, I got some friends to help move stuff to my new place. I am going to pay my friends some rent for the next 2 weeks until the other person moves out. They did not want me to, but I am not going to stay in someone's home and not contribute. If nothing else, living with the ex and his mom taught me that. Last night, the ex and I got together and talked for the first time since Saturday. He said his mom is staying until June when the lease is up. Then she is moving back to their hometown. According to him, she just really did not like living here, and that is why she did not try to find a job. Then he asked how long a break I thought we should take. A few commenters gave me a hard time for stringing him along, so I was brutally honest and told him I could not be with someone that allowed others to treat me the way he allowed his mom to treat me, and that I hoped he learned to stand on his own and establish some boundaries. He looked like he was going to cry and just got up and left. As far as I am concerned, this whole thing is over and done. I am going to call it a learning experience and be glad I found out how awful the ex's mom is before we got married. The thing that amazes me is the amount of damage this woman leaves in her wake and how utterly oblivious she is. She destroyed our engagement and relationship, is leaving the ex in a much worse financial situation, and pushed back her ex-husband's retirement by I don't know how many years, since now he likely has to pay off a mortgage or second mortgage he had to get to pay her half of the equity. And she made my life heck for 6+ months. And she is walking away completely unscathed. According to my ex, she is going back to her hometown and picking up her old teaching job. I am thinking about going to visit my parents next week and working from their house. I want to tell them how boring and undramatic they are and how I am so grateful for that and love them for it. Laugh out loud. Relevant comments. Crinkly Toes said, Mother-in-law sounds very narcissistic. Perhaps she's someone who enjoys causing problems, breaking up relationships, causing job losses, i.e., destroying lives. If she's at the sociopathic level, maybe? Billiken Girl said, I am so glad you were able to extract yourself from that mess. B3 Ruka said, You put on an absolute master class on how to handle this kind of situation. Your post should be pinned in this sub. You said what you meant, and followed through on it all, and he had ample opportunity to make things right. Good on you. Please update us when you finally find the one that deserves you. We're all a little invested in your life now. Hugs! That was the end of our first story. What do you think about how this situation was handled? Let us know in the comments below. Now, let's move on to the next one. I, a 21-year-old female, found out my husband, a 33-year-old male, has been having an affair with my mother, and I don't know where to go from here. Sorry, this can be quite a bit to read. However, a lot happened and everything I have written is essential to my situation. I, a 21-year-old female, have been married to my husband, a 33-year-old male, for a year and 3 months now. We got together when I was 18 and he was 30, while I was a senior in high school. To a lot of people, our relationship is taboo. However, I have always been very mature for my age, and it has always felt normal to both of us. My mother, a 40-year-old female, has always had a soft spot for him, which I appreciated. When she first met him, she told me I was so lucky to have an amazing person in my life. Throughout our relationship, my mom and him got along fine, which I have always thought may just be from their somewhat closeness in age. However, during our wedding is when I started noticing weird behavior from my mom. On my wedding day, she told me she wished she was the one in the gown today, referring to my wedding dress. I asked her what she meant, and she just started laughing, saying she has had too much to drink. She also suggested her and my husband have a dance together during my wedding. I immediately laughed because I thought it was a joke. However, given the current circumstances, it was clearly not a joke. Further down the line, she would start asking me how he was in bed. I told her I did not feel comfortable talking to her about that, and she said that my aunt was curious. She also started asking my husband sexual questions, like, what was his favorite position? What are his kinks? If he had ever had a threesome? Genuinely uncomfortable questions that made me grossed out. My suspicion specifically grew throughout the last 3 months. My husband told me my mom asked him to renovate her kitchen. He works in construction, and he would be over there after work Monday through Wednesday. When I offered to join him, he said it was not necessary and that it would be boring for me. When I asked my mom if I should join as well, she said I was being a nagging wife, asking to come over. However, when he started to visit my mom, I noticed sexual changes in our relationship. When he would come home from work or my mom's, he would never be interested in doing it. My suspicions grew further when I visited my mom's place, and the kitchen looked the same as before. When I confronted both of them, they said they were still just prepping for the renovation. In this moment, I knew something was wrong. I had an urge to know, so I left work early and decided to go by my mom's place and see what was happening. When I arrived, I wanted to see what they were up to naturally, and did not want them to be alarmed that I was there. Luckily, my mom's place has a lot of windows, and you can see nearly every room in the house if you just wander around. When I got to the study's window, that is when I saw my husband and mother having sex on her desk. I screamed and cried. When they saw me, my mom looked down in complete disbelief, while my husband ran out of the room. I was not there long but ran to my car and drove off hyperventilating. When I got home, I just started to pack some clothes and essentials and wanted to leave. I drove off and my phone started blowing up from my husband, mother, and auntie, assuming she knew. I drove to an empty car park and sat there for over 4 hours, just crying and listening to music. I decided to return to my husband and I's home, as the tears I let go turned into complete anger and distrust. I wanted to confront him. When I arrived home, he was not there, and there was also no sign he had even been at our place. I decided that I needed some sleep and thought that maybe he had just stayed in a motel for the night to give me space. When I woke up the next day, I was going to call him. However, I thought to myself that I was not ready to speak to him. So, I called back my auntie, and she told me that he stayed over at my mother's house to be there for her. My mouth dropped, and I could not even say a single word. My auntie had to keep asking if I was there. I asked her if she could set up a meeting with myself, my husband, and my mother, and she said she would pick me up and take me to my mom's house to talk. When my auntie picked me up, she said that my mother told her about their affair, and she told her to stop. My mother lied to her, saying she had, and yesterday, straight after I caught them, she said my mother told her she had been still seeing him and that I had found out. I told my auntie I was disappointed she did not tell me, and that she has lost my trust, and she seemed to have understood that and complied. When we got to their house, my husband had his arm around my mother while she had her head rested on his shoulder. Keep in mind, I caught them a day ago. My mother started crying as soon as she saw me and started hugging my husband. That in itself aggravated me. To keep this from going any longer, they told me that they want to be together and they hope one day I will accept them. I literally could not even feel anything, so I just started laughing in shock. Even my auntie told my mom she was being ridiculous. They claimed that they have been in love for a year now, and they started sleeping with each other 4 months after my husband and I got married. The craziest claim was that my mother said she sees herself starting a family with him. After they told me everything, I sat in silence for a few minutes, and my mom pleaded that I say something. I could not. I asked my auntie in that moment to take me home, and she got her keys and got me out of there immediately. As soon as I got in the car, she hugged me and I started bawling. She said everything was going to be okay, and that she was there for me no matter what. She offered that I stay with her, but I just wanted to be alone. It has been a week since that all happened, and I have been at home alone just crying and drinking. I even had some really dark thoughts that honestly terrified me to the point I was going to check myself into the hospital. The worst part is that a part of me wishes I never saw them and lived completely oblivious to their affair. I do not have any friends or anyone in my life. The only person I had was my husband, and now that is gone. My mother and I have always had problems in the past, as she blamed my father's suicide on me and even faked a suicide note from him saying it was my fault when I was 12. In a way, I think this is her way of getting back at me for my dad, as she truly believes that I was the reason he decided to end his life because I was an angry tween. My husband sees my mother as forbidden fruit, which is something that I believe men crave, which is why the majority of the time they are the ones that cheat. I am now alone and, to be honest, have no clear direction for what is next for me. My husband and I agreed I was going to be a stay-at-home mom, which is something I wanted as well. I do not have any interest in college and have never considered what kind of profession would interest me. I have always just wanted to be a mom and a loving wife, and expected that to become my reality. I am also not smart at all, and have no idea what to do legally from here, so any advice on that would be great. I am sorry this is so long, as a lot happened, and I wanted to provide as much detail as possible. I would never turn to social media in the past. I would go to my husband, but that has now changed and I did not have anyone else. Any advice or just thoughts would be appreciated. Final update. Hey, so this will be my final update on everything, as I believe the situation has finally come to an end and I am in a really good place. I left off where I was in a shelter and had made a lot of friends. Well, the girl who I was going to move somewhere with, she ended up going back to her mom and stepdad, and so I was back to being stuck on what to do. That was until I got a message from my grandma that her mom, my great-grandma, needs someone to care for her. She said that her brother would be happy to have me stay with him as long as I care for my great-grandma. I decided I have nothing left to lose and decided this would be a good gig until I find out what I want to do. I arrived in Miami 3 days ago and have been enjoying it greatly so far. I never really knew my dad's side, as he was not that close with his family, and after he passed it was hard to keep contact. My great-uncle is very nice and very accommodating, and his wife is really nice. They live in quite a nice part of Miami as well, near the beach. I have not seen my great-grandma in over 10 years, and she was so happy when she saw me. She cannot speak that much English, as she only really speaks Spanish. I am aware I said my dad was white, but that was only because I was scared of my identity being revealed, and that was not a 100% lie. My father was Cuban, and was born and raised in Miami. However, he was most likely a descendant of Spaniards. Anyways, my great-grandma has been teaching me Spanish, and as well, through the help of translation from my great-uncle, stories about my dad. She told me that he would fall asleep on her lap at family gatherings, and how he would make the whole family laugh imitating her accent. It made me tear up seeing all the photos of him as a kid with his whole family. She told me that when he got on drugs and ran away from home, it left everyone in complete distraught. She claimed my grandma would cry every day. My mom never had a relationship with them, and that was her choice. They wanted to meet her, actually. They told me that they were not shocked at what happened to me, as my dad told them later on my mom would cheat on him all the time with other men. This made me furious, as my mom always claimed my dad was her soulmate. I have not heard anything from my mom. However, my cousin's wedding went ahead yesterday, as my auntie posted it on Facebook. My mom was there, and she seemed completely fine from the photos. The wedding looked boring anyways. My cousin is marrying his first cousin from Pakistan, on the in-laws' side, and no one is smiling. It made me laugh, actually, seeing my mom with all these people who are deeply religious and conservative. Seeing my mom next to my grandma and other female relatives who wear scarves and are deeply religious, compared to my mom, who sleeps with anyone that gives her an ounce of attention, really cracks me up. Also, no word from my ex-husband. However, his sister sent me a text apologizing on behalf of her and his parents. So yeah, that is the end, I believe. I am taking care of my great-grandma, and will work out what I want to do in the meantime. This will most likely, hopefully, be the final update, as I believe I am in a really good place. That brings us to the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and spending this time with us. If you enjoyed these stories, please give the video a like and subscribe to the channel so you never miss an update.